Welcome, everyone. Today is June the 3rd, and I have a very, very exciting special guest today. Okay, first of all, I want to tell you what's happening here. This is Sandra Alexei with Game Changer. It's a self-discovery book and a book about the new type of relationships. And if you look at the top right hand, it comes in ebook, audio, hardcover, softcover. And if you go underneath in the show me, you'll see my website, and I do spiritual and business coaching. I've started the YouTube channel, and I talk a lot about astrological cycles, but it's a lot about self-discovery. And the first relationship we do is we have with ourselves. As I have been on my own self-discovery journey, I find that there's special people that are like magnets, and they really work in society to help and to assist souls on their own journey, because the very first relationship is with ourselves, okay? And I'm all about aligning with spirit, okay? And listening to my intuition and having a spiritual fitness and a physical fitness. And David Bowden, who we're going to talk to today, is the epitome of spiritual and physical fitness. David will tell you about himself. He's, we call him Coach Bowden, okay? And he's somebody that could have retired, but has never really retired. He's engaged in life continually. And you would never guess his age, and we're not even going to tell you, because he does so much for the community, okay? And so I'm going to have the hashtags, how you can contact David. And David, you can tell us about, we're talking from Kona, Hawaii, and it's great here. Here I'm in Canada and you're there. So I love the new social media platforms. So David, it's all up to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexei. You know, you're so kind to give me this chance to, be interviewed by you. This life I've led, it's, oh my God, I have to step back and take a breath every now and then. Reason being is growing up in Tampa, Florida, my parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, all of them had a hand on my back as I navigated, through my walk. One thing I reflect back to is that as a seventh grader, my cousin and I, we went up to Quincy, Florida, where my family has land, and we worked in the tobacco field. Okay, we picked it back. You're talking about my grandparents, they instilled such a work ethic in us,
Yeah.
And so it just carried on. Now, even before that point, growing up in Tampa, I was asthmatic, okay? And being an asthmatic, wish that on anybody. It's, it's debilitating, I would say disease, okay? My mother, God bless her soul, would have to set me on the porch in the dead of winter in Tampa, Florida in order to breathe. It was just that bad. And one day at school, high school that is, a gentleman by the name of Billy Reed, God bless his soul, he passed on. He saw me in the hallway, and with his rough voice, he'd come out for football. My mother didn't want me to play football, but guess what? I went out anyway. So anyway, go out. Then I was getting tests probably once every 2 months as asthmatic. Okay, so we started the routine. And, well, let me just back up. I go home after my first football practice. My mother quite eloquently asked me where had I been, because I'm usually home at 3:30, and I get home around 6. So I told her I had gone to football practice. Coach Reed asked me to come out. Oh my God, she's such a special person. But she understood, because I've always been competitive. Now, having said that, she took me for a checkup. okay? And this orthopedic doctor said to me, what have you been doing? I said, well, I'm out for football and I've been doing running, you know. And he gave me a tidbit of information that has led me to this point. He said, whatever you're doing, keep doing what you're doing because your bronchial tubes are opening up.
Awesome.
And that's where it all started, you know. And I there's a question I always ask people in some cases. What are the two most important days in your life? Most people would say the day I was born, correct? The second one is the day you find out why. Now, when I started running and I realized why it was helping me open my bronchial tubes and kicking asthma to the curb, I just kept doing it. You know, running 20 marathon, people and I say to co-workers in Fort Lauderdale, I know you guys are wondering why I ran so much. I was running for my life.
Wow.
That's what that was all about, you know. So that pretty much kicked it off because high school coaches back then, you know, they were part of your family. And even college, as I went to Fort Valley State, the same situation. I tell people my coaches gave all of us a book of rules and a bag of tools to live by, you know? And what I did at that point was just began to monitor myself step by step and just giving thanks that I had these people in my life and in my lifestyle that I could reach out and touch kids. Now, having said that, as I mentioned earlier, back when I graduated from college, well, from high school, we were pretty much programmed to become teachers, okay? That was it. So my first, and I was looking in my yearbook back in 1962, I wanted to be an physical therapist, okay? So as I look at it and as I went into college, you know, physical education was the thing to do with me being so active. Because as an athlete in Tampa, Florida, this gentleman again, Coach Billy Reed, he had me, well, I played football, I ran track, I played basketball, and also I played baseball. You know, I would sometimes go to baseball practice for an hour and a half and then go to track and field practice for an hour and a half. So, you know, I never stopped. You know, and what I learned, and as I reflect on it now, and I know for sure that life is about movement. So you got to keep moving, you know, got to keep moving. That's one of the keys there, you know. But yeah, but that's basically how and why it all started, you know, with the running of the marathons and the teaching and just seeing kids grow and develop. And my thing was just to give them good tools,
Right.
give them good tools to see that light come on. There's a switch there now. There's a switch. There's always a switch. And a lot of kids, I tell people and their families, I tell parents, a lot of kids are just misunderstood. Right. You know, they have that energy, but you got to understand and channel that energy in the right direction, you know. And in some cases, when I was teaching in the inner city of St. Louis, and to reflect on that, I had sometimes 60 kids in one PE class, okay? 60, yeah.
Oh
now,
God.
Understand the fact that when I got to St. Louis after playing football briefly with the Redskins, we had what you call the Turner Marine Society, form of physical education. That's out of Germany. And I never forget the gentleman who brought it into St. Louis. His name was Louis Kitlas, okay? Very stern, firm man. I can see his face right now. He ran a good program. But having said that, it was all about movement. Every 4 weeks, we would go into a different module, okay? So, you know, and teaching in the inner city, you know, it wasn't easy, but it was worthwhile, you know, because even today, and by the way, going back to St. Louis, let me share this with you. I'm sitting in Fort Lauderdale before I moved here, 17 years ago. am watching an NBA championship game between the Lakers and the Celtics. And the commentator says, in come David Thurkill. I said, David Thurkill, that name sounds familiar. It was a kid that I had coached in the 7th grade in St. Louis. I'm saying, like, you got to be kidding me. So I began to reach out to people that I knew in St. Louis. I said, is this the David Thurkill who was on my basketball team at Ford Community? Yeah, coach, that's him. So and the kid that gave me that information, he's I think Stanley Coleman is a captain in the police department in St. Louis. So anyway, he gave me David's number. So I called David, and sure enough, it was him. So, you know, you could have bought me for a plug nickel, you know, because coming out of the inner city there, and there's just so many kids who was at Ford Community School that did so many good things later in life, you know, just sit back and make you smile, you know. But after leaving there and going to Fort Lauderdale, you know, that was totally different, going back home, you know, and that kind of thing. But teaching and coaching at Boyd Anderson was, you know, I don't know how to describe it, because even today, I talk to kids who I coach there, because they have kids. And that's one number, that 954-609-1313 number, I kept it, okay? The reason being is I knew that the athletes that I coach, they would have kids someday. And sure enough, I get calls from them saying, Coach, you know, my son is this, my daughter's, you know, what can I do, you know, and that kind of thing. And one thing happened about maybe track season, maybe about 3 or 4 months ago. I get this little note letter from one of the athletes, and it was Michael Lavelle, who was one of my state champions, you know. And I said, Mike, are you at a track meet? He lives in Atlanta and he works for Nokia, okay? And he said, yeah, coach, and Errol Williams is here too. Errol is another kid. How these stories just, oh my God. Errol is another kid who has four sons. And he and his wife thought so much of what I had done to help Errol that their last kid, Joseph, they gave him my last name as his middle name. I'm saying, like, oh. They called and told me that. I said, hey, you know, but those kind of stories just, you know, just take you real fast, you know. And Errol himself, he goes to Notre Dame. And, you know, it was, and I can reflect on the day he signed with Notre Dame. The reason why I can reflect on that is that he had scholarships. He was a baccalaureate student. He had scholarships at all the major universities. Now, he's the one that invited me to Harvard when he got his master's degree, okay? But having said that, these coaches just called in Errol, you know, wanted him because he was track and field. He played football, just a good athlete, you know. Mm-hmm. And this coach from, where was he? Major university up north there. He says, the coach is very much interested in Errol. I said, well, Coach, why don't you come down and speak with Errol's parents? He says, well, I have to go here. I have to go there. I said, well, okay, Coach, you know, so we hung up. The next day, the coach from Notre Dame called. I said to him, Coach, why don't you come down and speak with Errol's parents? He said, I'll be there tomorrow, Coach. Picked him up at the airport, took him by Errol's house, dropped him off. They sat there for a couple of hours. Next day, he signed with Notre Dame, you know. So those kind of stories just make you smile, you know, because it's all about humanity, you know, just giving back and just, if nothing else, putting kids and their families in the position where lights will just come on all over the place, you know. Now, Errol right now, he works for a Hotel International Group out of Atlanta, Georgia, you know. And he and his family just, you know, just impeccable people, you know. but yeah, those are a couple of stories. And Alexa, I have so many. I
know. Do you know what, David? I've got a message for you. Okay. What you need to do, okay, I'm being told this, okay? And you can pass it with your friends, okay? Mm-hmm. I'm being told that you need to put together a book. And in the book, there's a chapter about all of the different students, and the student does the chapter themselves, what you've done for them and whatever. And you know, because Don Shula, okay, he was a big coach, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, Don Shula, yeah.
You know what? My one book, my very first book and the second book, I talk about Don Shula. And the reason I tell him is he said, as a coach, he said, it's easy to say, oh, you're doing wonderful. Everything is just good. But he said, that's not coaching. No, he said, coaching is finding out what skills need to be improved and being able to help them. Okay. And so it's like, and that's that whole thing about positivity. You got to just keep being positive. No, David, because it's not real. If you're going to help somebody to grow, you've got to give them what they really need and identify.
That's true. That's true. You know, on that note, speaking of the late great Don Shula, when I was in Fort Lauderdale, and this goes even further back, growing up in the projects in Tampa, there's a athlete. His name is Lord Munford. Lord and Don's name just came out of my mouth maybe 2 or 3 days ago. The reason being is Lord, growing up in the projects as well, he goes on and played at my high school. He goes on to Texas Southern and comes out. And he was on that undefeated Miami Dolphins 1972 team with Don Shula. Oh, and oh yeah, we were talking about that. And Lord sent me a picture of he and Don Shula, because that 1972 team, I think they have a reunion. I don't know how often, but the ones that are still around, they usually show up in Miami, you know, and just meet and just talk story. But it's because, you know, that's the only undefeated team ever in the NFL, Miami Dolphins.
See, I didn't know that. I always brought the books that I need to. And this book was there and I read it. And I took his stuff out of his book on how to coach and how to improve performance. And it was in a business aspect for business owners, how they can work with them or human resource people. And David, I just have an idea and I want to tell everybody, because I now sometimes coach through this medium to people that have like special kind of conscious raising schools, and that I'm going to say that anybody that is a coach or wants to do any kind of work, I really would suggest they would get a hold of you. And you could, I think you're an inspiration at the stage you are in your life and what you have been through. And I know that living in Hawaii, didn't you bring a bunch of very famous football players down? And you guys, I want you to say about that. And then we were somewhere, and then you had this other friend that was really famous. You have a lot of that you take for granted, and then you carried the torch, didn't you? You've worked with what is it when they in Hawaii they have that fitness kind of thing that.
Oh yeah. Well, I coach track and that kind of thing, you know.
And you taught tennis, and you did. Yeah. You've done physical and spiritual fitness. I say you put together for people. So
this is the friend that you were talking about, Rayfield Wright. He and Ernie Shavers, who was Ernie fought Muhammad Ali back in the day. Okay. And I think he's one of the guys that really knocked Ali down, you know, but Ali still was the greatest, you know. Yeah. But Rayfield, just talked with him yesterday. And, you know, this gentleman right here, he was, oh my God, humble growing up in Griffin, Georgia, you know. And he grew up, his mother, Big Mama, was the person in the home that really nurtured him, you know, and he always reflect to her. Now, having said that, in this book, he had a little quote because he was my tight end in college. So he mentioned my name on page, I think it was 109 somewhere, but it was all about what I did to help him and what he did to help me in college, you know, get from point A to point B. But one interesting thing on the back of this, Rayfield says, and everybody knows Roger Staubach. Now, Roger Staubach was the best of the best when it comes to quarterbacks, okay? Now, to understand, Rayfield, as a rookie in the NFL, not Don Shula, but oh my God, I'm remiss now. What was the guy? The coach, the coach of Dallas Cowboys. You know, I haven't one of those things. He just, yeah. But anyway, let me just pause right quick because I got to give this guy props on this.
Yeah, no, you've got to.
Not Don Lander, but okay. I have to because I don't want to. Tom Landry. Tom Landry. He was a football coach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Tom Landry, when he came to Fort Valley State, and I was at the Redskins at the time. I came out in 1966, and signed with the Redskins. Rayfield came out in 67.
Coach Landry.
And he signed with the Dallas Cowboys, okay?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as a tight end because he was tight end at Fort Valley State with me. Now, having said that, he played tight end his rookie year with the Dallas Cowboys. The next year, Coach Landry, they drafted Roger Staubach out of Naval Academy, I think, one of those big academy schools, you know, military schools. And as I said, Roger was the best of the best, okay? Coach Landry moved Rayfield from tight end because of his height to offensive tackle. Now, Rayfield stands about 6'7". He's a big man, okay? And he moved him to right tackle because Roger Staubach was right-handed.
All right.
Okay, all right. So on the back of this cover, Rayfield said of Roger Staubach, he says, oh my God, everything is jumping out. He said to Roger Staubach, he said, Roger Staubach protected me. I mean, the Rayfield Wright protected me like the Secret Service protect our president. That kind of statement, and I said to Rayfield, that kind of statement coming out of Roger Staubach's mouth and knowing how efficient and how this guy was just the best of the best. I put it that way, you know.
Right.
And he really admired what Rayfield did, and likewise, both of them went into the Hall of Fame, NFL Hall of Fame. So that's a testament to Tom Landry and his directions with the Dallas Cowboys. So,
right.
You know, yeah.
Didn't you bring some guys down a few years ago, David? And they worked with the kids at the high school there, some football.
Yeah, that was Michael Frater.
Okay.
Michael Frater was a two-time Olympian.
Okay.
We coached him in high school at Boyd Anderson. And he and his brother Lindell, both of them Olympians, they go to TCU, Texas Christian, academic All-Americans, you know.
Yeah.
So Michael comes out and he just had speed to burn, you know, he was that kind of athlete. And believe it or not, when Michael was here, my sister wrote a story on Michael, and he gave us the full picture of his growth and development. Michael was a little short guy. The first track team that he goes out for, the coach turned him away. Now, this is in Jamaica now.
Oh, really?
The coach turned him away. You know, you're too small, you know, but he did not let that bother him. You know, he worked on his skill. Now, and I was talking with Michael not long ago, and we briefly mentioned something about growing up in Jamaica. He being short, that was his ancestry, you know.
Yeah.
But he had such a willpower. Okay. So after finishing TCU, he started running international, started, winning all kind of medals. So in the London Olympics was what? No, Beijing was first, 2008. Okay. He was along with Usain Bolt, Mustafa Powell, and these guys. They won a gold medal.
Oh, really?
In the 4x100. Okay. So that blossomed. I mean, that just kicked his name all over the world. He started getting invites from everywhere, So roll around 2012, okay, London Olympics. I get this call from one of my athletes who was a state champion at Boyd Anderson. He lives in Kingston. He called, he says, Coach, and I was here at the time. Yeah, I was here in Hawaii. He says, Coach, they want you to come to Kingston, Jamaica to talk about Michael's growth and maturation in your track and field program and becoming the captain of the Jamaican Olympic team. I said, oh man, So I jumped on a plane and I go to Jamaica, with the help of a few friends here. And I was on JATV, okay, and live stream into London. And Jamaica had, they had a reporter on the ground. And we just talked about Michael's skills, his dedication, his love for family, his academia, because the kid was smart. The kid was smart, So he had a vision and he took advantage of that vision. Even though as a tiny tot, the coach turned him away from the track team, he did not let that bother him. He persevered, and that kind of thing. In fact, I just got a call from one of my athletes. He's coaching at a college in Miami. And he said to me, Coach, can I get Michael to come down? He asked me, check with Michael and see when he'll be in Fort Lauderdale again. So I did, and let him know, because he wanted him to speak at his university to some of the kids, and that kind of thing. So he's on a speaking tour. He does a lot. He does a lot, to help kids and that kind of thing. So that's what you look for, just passing the torch from one point to the other. Now, speaking of carrying the torch.
Yeah, you carried the torch.
Yeah, I have to reflect back to that, because it was pretty much once in a lifetime type of thing. And I was selected by teachers at Boyd Anderson High School in Fort Lauderdale, teachers and administrators, because they had to write letter recommendations and that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. And this was 1996. This was the year Muhammad Ali lit the quadrant, okay? And out of the 1,000+ torch burials that was all over the world, nobody knew Ali was going to light the quadrant.
Oh.
Okay, nobody knew it. 1996, and my link to this was carrying the torch. Was North Miami to Southern Broward, which is Fort Lauderdale area.
Right.
And each torch bearer, they were able to purchase their torch. In fact, I still have mine. And, just keep it for, as a souvenir. And I always check on, how much is the torch worth at this point in time? And the value just keep going up every year, and that's amazing, because there's so many people out there who've done humanitarian things in the community. And basically the barrage of torchbearers that you saw, that you will ever see during the Olympics, they have done something special in their immediate community to help people.
Right.
And
right.
That's the way that they are selected,
David, and that's the way I look at you. I mean, we're not going to tell anybody what your age is, because you're very...
It's okay.
You're young at heart and you look good and you have energy, you have life. Yeah, I'm sorry, a lot of people walk around and they're like zombies. They look good, but they don't have that spark, and they're not that humanitarian to help each other. And so what has always amazed me with you is how all these years, and I feel it because I have a lot of my students that have kept in touch with me too, you touch their hearts, okay?
That's it.
And what you've done is you've created a community. We talk about creating a community and creating a culture. You created it way before. Basically, that's what we're looking at now. It's this up-down hierarchy. It's done. We have to have a network. You've had a network all your life. You've been years ahead on consciousness and humanity. And so you get calls all the time from these people. They're talking to you about your kids, but I'm serious, like to get together and to do something. But I know you carried the torch. I know you still work with teaching, like running, and you still go in the high schools and do stuff.
Right. You know, here on the Big Island, I've been very fortunate. You know, the local Ohana here, I mean, people just come together to make things happen, you know. Say, for instance, there's a guy by the name of Jim Perver. He's the owner of the Coffee Shack up Captain Cook. And the month of May, when this pandemic hit and everybody was just like, you know, it was bad time. We all know.
Yeah.
Jim got his PPP money, and through Karen Kudo, Karen who owns Treasure Island Thrift Shop, they got together and they asked me if I would deliver lunches, free lunches to the community, you know. So for the entire month of May, that's what I was doing, taking them to the kids because, you know, it was rough. It was rough, you know, just dropping off lunches from Captain Cook all the way to, well, I think I went to Waikoloa Middle School. So it was just all over the island and people just giving back, you know, and that kind of thing. And that was very, very special. In fact, a local TV station did a little thing on what we did, you know, in helping the community. And that was so very important.
Yeah, and so that for me, David, is why I've reached out to you, because I look at society right now. And of course, I'm a realist. And so people always say, I can't sugarcoat anything, okay? And so a lot of the times, and it distresses me, is that it's like, what can I get? People always want, what can I get? They want, okay? I call it hungry eyes, okay? They just want, okay? And so because of what's happening, whatever, they can get money from the government, but they want that and they don't really need it, as opposed to if they do get it, can't you give? Like, what has happened to society for giving? And you have been a giver. And the whole way that the world is going to shift in consciousness, we say, is where it has to be of benefit for everybody. So what you do is its benefit. That's why you give so much of yourself, and there's so much that comes in return of goodness.
So true, so true.
And it really keeps your light burning, because I always say everybody's got a candle, you know, and I would say my job as a teacher and as whenever I work with anybody in what coaching in my business and spiritual, it's like, let me light your candle. That's all I do.
Yeah, you know, Alexei, I did an extensive podcast, if you want to call it, Zoom call with a gentleman out of Australia, Mark Philpott. Mark, he started Global Sports Channel, okay, and you can pull it up on YouTube and that kind of thing. But what he had done, he and one of my athletes by the name of David Barbash, David was one of my runners back in the early 80s at Boyd Anderson. David called me and said, is it possible we can interview Michael Frater, the Olympian, you know, for this international sports thing, okay? I said, well, I'll call him and see what his setup. So I called Mike, and Mike said, yeah, sure, Coach, and I'll do the interview. So, and Mike's interview is on YouTube as well. So anyway, a week afterwards, David called me, David Barbash, that is, and says, Coach Mark would like to interview you. Now, Mark is, he's a good guy. He lives on a yacht okay, Sydney Harbor, you know, he just cruises around. But one thing he does do, he comes to the Big Island for the Iron Man.
All
You
right,
know,
of course he does.
yeah. So what a connection. So once we connected and started the interview, you know, he was just tickled pink the fact that, you know, I'm here on the Big Island and he's sitting in the Sydney Harbor interviewing me and that kind of thing. So when he comes back for Ironman this year, we're supposed to hook up. But you know, he what he's done with the Global Sports Challenge, try to bring athletes, whether they were successful, whether they fell off the wagon, they had problems, just to interview them so the world can see that, you know, it's not all peaches and cream, you know. You can be a professional football player and you can blow your money and then you end on Skid Row and, you know, that kind of stuff happens, you know. But what he's trying to do is plant a seed in the young ones, you know, so that they can understand each person's walk and how they got to that point in time, you know.
You know, David, I think that's really powerful right now because we have a lot of challenges, and I don't get into the challenges. We have a lot of challenges right now with the sports. Okay, with a lot of the sports and the athletes and that type of thing. They're very different from years ago.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I can remember when I taught one time, I ended up putting together a course for youth offenders, okay? My principal said, that's what you're gonna do. So I had 28 of them. And they were a wild bunch, eh? And of course, you know, I hit them with it. It's just like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. This, and you know what? They listened. And I'll never forget the one kid, he said, guess what I do? I said, do you think I do drugs? I went, no, you sell them. You're a business person. You know, that 16-year-old David made enough money. I'm working on something else. And he come in, he had a suit on and he ended up taking the money. And would you believe it, 16 years old, bought a cleaning, a janitorial service. And he had 16 people working for him.
Amazing.
And then one of my girl students said this famous football player, she babysat for him. So I was working at Vic at the time. It was really big. And the kids all said, all the guys, we want to hear him. So I said to her, see if he'll come in. Sure, he come in to talk to them. But guess what? I didn't tell anybody in the school. But of course, you know what it gets around. All the football players were waiting at my door to come and hear. You know what he said to them? He was a really good player. Wilson Jones, I think he did the flip. But anyway, he said he always wanted to play baseball, but he was picked up to play. He was from some part of Canada, from somebody in America, and he was taken down to America. And so he phoned his mom and he goes, I don't want to stay here anymore. They just make me sit on the bench. And she goes, he goes, I want to come home. She said, you don't have a home.
Whoa.
Stay there, she said. So he said that was his learning. And he said he had to learn to go through, David. He made big money. He did the women, he did the jewelry. But then he said what he was instilled with. Okay. And I think that's why it's important. But I want to get those names here. But I would love to, we'll kind of close this off now. And if there's anything else you want to say to anybody, it's like, I know you have 0 to
hero. Yeah, this booklet here that I showed you earlier, this is a picture book with teammates, coaches, different Hall of Fame accolades, Rayfield Wright, just the booklet I decided to just put together, and it tells a story in itself, okay, about my walk and that kind of thing, you know.
Did you put that together, David?
I did. One day I was just, you know, and I had all these pictures and I was reflecting. I said, I'm just going to compile this. I think I took it to Office Max and have them to put a bind on it and everything, you know.
So do you have more of those books, David?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so then we're going to put how people can get a hold of those books and they can contact you and maybe arrange to get some, or contact you to actually do a Zoom, see what you can. And we'll kind of finish it off. What could be your last words for them? You can tell them about, you've got a company called Energy.
ENRG Health and Fitness?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's basically about movement of kids, you know, pretty much drills that develop skills, you know, and getting tiny tots. Doesn't make any difference what age. Coordination is so very important, you know, and that's one of my main things, getting them coordinated, mind, body, all hooked up together. And movement, form and function, you know, proper technique, head up, chest out, elbows kicking back, tapping the hub of your power, which is in your hips, to get the maximum energy from your structure, from your body, you know, and that kind of thing. So that's basically what ENRG is all about.
Okay, perfect. So then what we're going to do is in the hashtags, people can contact you, David. And we got to do another interview because there's so much.
Oh yeah, it's
just so much. This is where you go, and then you can go to the next one. But so and 0 to hero. You know what you're really good at is you're really doing, like, you put words together that really like 0 to hero and
yeah,
like skills to whatever. And I think that's really cool. So if you want to kind of end it with any kind of little inspirational thing.
You know, yeah, there's so many hooks that, you know, I try to use with kids, and just to make them think about their worth, you know. And I go back to that statement, you know, 2 most important days. What do you think they are? The day you find out why you're put here on earth, then you begin to encompass family, friends, community, and understand that, you know, if you work together with these entities, things work better, you know.
Right.
No man is an island, you know, just you have to have friends, and that's so very important.
Yeah, but and friends that are supportive. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Friends that are supportive, and I always have to say this: they're not energy vampires or whatever.
Right. Yeah. I say to have a friend, be a friend. You know.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's really important, David, during these times. Well, thank you so much, everybody. I hope you have enjoyed.
Thoroughly enjoyed it, like say hooking up, you know, connecting. Because those last 2 times, I'm saying, like, what is going on here?
But you know what? I always believe that when I'm a patient person. When the time is right, it's going to be right for whatever reason. And so we've done it, and we'll do another one again, David. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good, Alexi.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop the recording right now. Just wait.
Okay.
Just stop here.